So I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4 Episode 1, and I honestly don't really have anything else to say besides that. I think Season 3 left off on the Conquest fight and Invincible saying he's gonna have to kill now, but besides that, there's nothing I'm expecting. It's the start of the Viltrumite War. They're adding some Dark Blood stuff within here. I don't know, I'm just gonna jump in here just as surprised as probably the rest of you are.
Just want to play my game and go to sleep.
Okay, I'm now 9 minutes into episode 1, and honestly, I love how they start off every season with them feeling the effects of the big stuff that happened in the previous season. It really makes it feel like it's a continuous story, and I really appreciate that, because, you know, sometimes a lot of seasons for a lot of other shows, they start off and it's like, completely new things happening and we're not even thinking about what's happening in the previous season. So I really like how this show is like, no, this is a continuation. Everything feels like it's so tense but also so mundane. All these villains are going back to their normal ways of causing havoc for these civilians, and all these heroes are going there to stop it, and Invincible's helping out. Whether he wants to or not, he's helping out. And so is Oliver, and I think his name is Kid Omni-Man or something like that. And it's really interesting to see this Oliver juxtaposed with the previous Oliver, because his race ages so quickly. This Oliver already feels like he has been doing this hero thing for so many years. Most of his childhood must have been wasted just being a hero at this point. So at this point, he's tired. Same with Mark, they've been doing this hero thing all day, same with these villains, and they got one more mission to do. Oliver's through with it, he's tired, he just wants to rest and play a game. Mark has to go, and I enjoy this little thing he said to Debbie. Because of the Invincible War that happened in the previous times, people are looking at him horribly, scared. They don't know if this is a good Invincible or not, because there were so many Invincibles that were there causing havoc around the world. So now he feels obligated to have to go save people, to rebuild his reputation from the ground up. Not even from the ground up, he's rebuilding it from hell, going back upwards now. Can he do it? I don't know, but he sure is trying. This is what I honestly really like about Invincible, or it's like superhero stuff in general, is that it has very strong character work like this, especially in a show like Invincible where he is getting beat up for the majority of the time. I really like the character journey of him having to basically regain his hero status. Not only have they seen a lot of Invincibles be bad, they've also seen his dad Omni-Man be bad. And now not only he has to do this, but Kid Omni also kind of sort of has to do this, but he doesn't want to at this point because he's a teenager, and teenagers, they get bored and tired of this stuff really quickly.
Which is why you need to die!
I'm about 15 minutes in now. We've just been introduced to Dinosaurus, and like, I don't really have anything to say right now, just the tension for all of these characters is really high. Dinosaurus is talking about how Invincible has saved the planet basically because now there's less mouths to feed, so there's more resources to go around, but he's now trying to rectify his mistakes, so now it's messing everything up. So now the resources are going to end up being limited again or something like that, and he's beating him up because of it. But luckily, this is the time period where Invincible doesn't need his braces anymore on his arms and stuff, so there's a pretty even fight until he starts not holding back a little bit and just punches him. Maybe he's going to choke him out, maybe he's not, but the Guardians go there just in time before anything crazy happens. And I don't know, I just really like this tension. Even with Robot, I don't want to call him Rex. Even with Robot, the tension is really high, and if you know what his character journey is going to go through, the tension between him and Invincible is very scary as well. I wouldn't say I'm that familiar with the comics, I just know a basic outline of how the comic was structured and everything that goes on within there. It's somewhere up here because that's hard not to look at when you're searching for images and stuff online. You're gonna stumble across some spoilers here and there or some comparisons to the comics and differences to the comics. But man, things just do not feel safe with Robot and Invincible going through the stuff they're going through currently. The things that are gonna happen are gonna be insane, and still don't know how Dark Blood is going to either increase that or decrease that. I'm about 24 minutes in, and oh my god, how many times are we gonna have to deal with these sequids? I thought we were done after maybe season 1, then we had a cliffhanger. I thought we were done after season 2 maybe, then we had a cliffhanger. They came back in season 3 again with another cliffhanger, and now we're here in season 4 and the sequids are still going on. It's so weird to me because like a lot of the differences from the comics to the show, from a lot of people say, is that they're taking a lot of the storylines that had bits and pieces spread out throughout the issues and combining them to one. Except the sequids, they keep putting them on per season. Even if technically the sequid stuff do still happen at a later time in the comics, they still having them per season is so hilarious to me because they're such a minor threat in my opinion. I never feel like anybody's threatened by these sequids. If anything, the scariest part of the sequid stuff was when they took over Adam, Eve, and Robot, but they didn't do anything with that. They immediately got them uncontrolled. So I don't know what else the sequids can do. Take over one of the Viltrumites maybe? Is that the plan? That's the only way they could be a threat, I guess. I don't really know what else. So I just finished all of episode 1, and yeah, that's an episode 1. That's a good episode 1, let me tell you. Again, don't really like the sequel stuff, but I like the tool it became for the narrative. I guess first things first, I should mention that Eve and Invincible had to go towards the plant because Universa debuted and she was there trying to get power from the plant and they had to stop her. I don't really know what her deal is, but she seems pretty cool. Oh, and now they have all started to realize that Eve's powers are a little bit weird currently. I'm thinking it's because she's pregnant, and I don't know why nobody else is assuming that. But back to the sequids. Everybody's being under control in this city and they're having to go there, put up a field there. They don't want this to spread across the world because each time the sequids is around, it has a chance to easily spread across the entirety of the world. They have to stop it before it gets to that chance. And each fucking time, this astronaut is the casualty for this situation. He always gets caught slacking by the sequid. The sequid always sneaks towards him and he ends up becoming the host again. And now they're there. Everybody has a disruptor. Everybody has a teleporter dart. They're trying to save all the civilians they can without getting any seconds released. The barrier is at like 10%, so they're on a little countdown. And it's getting a little hectic there. They're trying the best they can. They don't know if they can get all of them in time. Cecil has to send Invincible there to help them out. Some people's disruptors are breaking. The sequids are like, humans and sequids belong together. We're going to spread across the entirety of the nation, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. And at the same time, everybody's going, there's just 4% left. There's 3% left. There's 2% left. Invincible on the break. He doesn't know what he should do. He doesn't know what he needs to do. 1% left. What is Invincible going to do? He kills the host. Invincible's first for real human kill is on this astronaut guy that keeps being a casualty host for these sequids. He kills it. It stops the sequids host from spreading any further. Immediately when they did that, all the sequids stopped, but also all the Guardians stopped to look at him. Nobody can believe he just took a life. And it's not the fact that he killed a sequid. I don't think they would have minded if he killed a sequid or killed a monster or anything. But the story itself made sure to emphasize that he had to kill this human who was a host, which he contemplated on doing earlier when Dinosaurus was around and he turned back into his human host. And he was contemplating on taking that person's life or not, but decided not to when the Guardian showed up. This time, he decided to do it. That's a good story for the first episode. That's a good story for the first episode for sure. And you know, I could say, he already said he wasn't going to hesitate anymore, so I'm surprised he was ever hesitated in the first place. But it's one thing to say something and one thing to do something. So I'm completely fine with him saying he's not going to hesitate to kill and still, in this episode, hesitating until the very last moment to do so. Now, after this is like, Is it off limits now? Is he going to do this as a first resort thing from now on, or is he still going to save it to be the last resort thing for him to do? I don't know, and I'm kind of hoping he still saves it for the last resort, because if he's just going off killing people, that's insane. He's no different from his father at this point. And, that's what the last couple seasons has been building up to, is him basically being the Omni-Man now to the Guardians, to the point where he's even mirroring how Omni-Man's relationship is to the Guardians. He's never been a part of the team officially. He only comes up there anytime they need some really serious help. He barely even works for Cecil at this point. He's going off on his own things. So it's something interesting to think about. Has he just now become the Omni-Man of this world since Omni-Man's no longer here? But I guess now with no ulterior motives. Although I do think it's important for him to be let loose and be able to kill at this point, because he's going to start seeing more and more Viltrumites pop up. So he was gonna have to pop that cherry eventually. It just sucks that it was on a human. It shouldn't have been on a human, but it was very important for it to be a human in this episode, to emphasize that he'll do what it takes to save lives. Yeah, I think that was a very important message for this episode to have. So I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 2. And I can only assume this episode consists of the fallout that happened in the previous episode. Assumingly it's going to have to deal with the consequences of Mark catching his first body, and not only that, his body was human. He's going to have to deal with the fallout of people looking at him weird and thinking he's more like Omni-Man than all of them thought now. What else can this episode possibly be about? 6 minutes in, I did not expect an Omni-Man backstory. I didn't expect this to be starting in the Viltrum Empire. I have a lot of things I need to say right now. One, Nolan just looks like Mark. He just looks like Mark. These Viltrum genes are very strong because a lot of the male characters do look the same. And you could say that's an animation thing. You can 100% say that. But a lot of the male characters look the same. So far, even Nolan's father in this backstory looks just like Omni-Man does now, just with a bigger mustache. And it's just so funny to see, because even Thrag from what we saw in the trailer just looks like Omni-Man with a buzz cut. It's so funny. Two, I guess the Viltrumites are just evil for evil's sake. Not necessarily evil, but I guess they have very much so a different morality system than humans do. Because we saw at the beginning, the minute one of the indentured servants, I guess I should say, the minute one of them dropped their bags, they killed them off. The minute it seemed like one of the little kids was going to get an answer right, it looked like the other kids were going to kill her off. And they even said, hey, bring weapons for the next meeting because two of you won't make it out alive. And even afterwards, Nolan gets jumped by his parents because it's his birthday, the day he becomes a man. So he has to survive this battle or die with his parents, and that can only make me assume that people have died to this tradition before, and they didn't look down upon that. They just said, oh, he was weak. Guess we gotta try again and have a stronger kid. His father approved of his strength. His mother didn't. And when his mother didn't, she flew off. Similar to when Nolan flew off with Mark at the end of season 1. It was very much so a similar mirroring to that. And I think that was done on purpose so we could see a good juxtaposition towards that. Just in this instance, it wasn't because Nolan had a sense of humanity inside of him. In this instance, it was because the mother felt like they were weak, felt like they didn't provide enough for her, felt like they didn't show enough strength towards this tradition that they had going on. So she just up and left. And I don't know what's gonna go on this first mission. 13 minutes in, this backstory was insane. I know Omni-Man has talked previously about there only being a few pure Viltrumites left, but it didn't go into detail as to how or why there was. And this backstory was specifically why there's only a few Viltrumites left. And apparently during this time period of Nolan finally becoming a man and finally getting on his first mission, joining the Viltrumite Empire properly, it's the same time this asteroid came down on this planet, and it wasn't actually an asteroid, it was a bunch of tech that spread around this gas, and this gas was specifically targeted towards Viltrumites, so all of them had developed this virus where blood was coming out of their mouth and eyes and any hole possible, and they were all dying on the spot. And none of the Viltrumites could figure out any cure to this, none of them could figure out what was going on with them. They were just a superior race that were dying for who knows why, which really doesn't make them that superior if you ask me. And I didn't think that it was going to be that crazy. I thought maybe, hey, there'd be like 100 people left. Maybe it took out 1 million Viltrumites. I'm not really sure, but there's 100% probably a lot left. No, they said this is taking out billions upon billions of Viltrumites on this planet, so much so that the ring around their planet is of the dead Viltrumites' bodies. It's not a ring full of gas, it's a body ring. Insane. And they're talking to their head honcho leader, which I can assume is only Thrag, and telling him, yeah, the Viltrumite Empire is basically over at this point. The only thing we can do now is breed with other species, which will cause inferior beings to be born, yada yada. And Thrag is like, no, we have to do this no matter the cause, because we will keep this empire alive and we will thrive once again for our fallen comrades. Still to this day, they don't know what causes gas to go around. Maybe that's what Nolan's about to do now, is figure out what was going on with that. I don't know. They're gonna have to figure out something, because they're gonna have to do something to stop this war from happening, or to slow down the people in this war. Maybe that's the only option. And with Nolan being a part of the resistance at this point, he's the only one alive that's a part of the rebellion that would know about this happening. Maybe that's what they're going to try to discover in this episode. I didn't figure it was going to be a Nolan and Alan episode, but it is.
Ooh, I'm sorry. I'm used to it.
I'm now 21 minutes in, and there's not really much to say about this episode so far. Just a pretty decent journey about Nolan and Alan going on an adventure to discover these weapons, to see if they're still out there and see if they still have an effect on the Viltrumites. There's not really that much to this episode so far. Other than that, there's some funny bits within here, like Nolan wanting to test to see if the coalition leader was a Viltrumite, but he just has to take his word for it, and it turns out it was the betrayer, the first person to turn their back on the Viltrum Empire, which you could have saw that coming, to be fair. And the only other funny bit, I guess, is Nolan constantly hearing Alan and his girlfriend in the room while he's trying to sleep on the couch. That's really it so far. It's just a pretty decent journey so far for them trying to find these weapons. I kind of like it. You know, I like a little like laid back, less tense episode, because the first episode was very tense comparatively.
Do you know what you did? How many suffered and died?
So I watched the rest of this episode, and it really feels like the main theme was about Nolan and his thoughts going through his head. Because yes, he does know that the Viltrum Empire is a problem, is a threat to the rest of the world, but at the same time, it's his family, it's the way he grew up. He doesn't really see it as a problem, but he understands it from other people's perspective that it is a problem, and he does want to help to stop it. And also at the same time, while going to all of these different planets and gathering all these different resources to help stop the Viltrum Empire, he's facing judgment for what he's done in the past. He's seeing all these former faces that he's had to face back in the day, where he was more gung-ho about the Viltrum Empire, where he was a lot more cold-blooded, and he's had to apologize for a lot of the stuff that he's done, whether he truly wants to or not. It really feels like he has changed and he is apologizing for these things. Especially Space Ranger. He kept him under a pile of rocks for 100 years. Insane. But it really feels like that was the main thing. It's just Nolan's mind, because he doesn't feel right betraying them, but he knows it's a necessary thing to do. Like, he doesn't want to be personally involved within this war. He doesn't want Mark or Oliver to be personally involved within this war, but he knows it is something that's inevitably going to happen. Like, he knows he's going to have to fight some Viltrumites, and he knows Mark and Oliver are going to have to fight as well, but he doesn't want to technically be involved in the war. He just wants it to be personal for him and his family. He really cares about semantics, and his mind is getting even less clear, in my opinion, because Thetis, the coalition leader, has revealed himself to not only be the betrayer, not only to have killed the former guy Argyle, I think his name is, but he was the person to have released that scourge virus that wiped out billions upon billions of Viltrumites to begin with. He was the person that has done that, which makes sense, because the only way you'd get a virus towards the Viltrumites is if you had a Viltrumite to kind of experiment upon. It makes sense if he was the first test dummy and persons whose blood was used to develop this virus, because he was the only Viltrumite at this point to have betrayed the Empire. And from what he was saying to Nolan, it seems like each time he's betrayed the Empire, whether it's to kill Argyle or to send that virus out to wipe out as many Viltrumites as possible, each time he thought this would show them that their way of living is wrong and that they should look towards another light. They now see how the other species feel when they wipe out almost their entire population. Except that's not what the Viltrumites do. Each time something crazy happens, the leader is like, no, we're gonna double down, we're gonna triple down on what we stand for, and that really upsets Thetis. He didn't realize that it killed billions of people. He thought maybe there were still a lot of people left, so hearing that was surprising towards him. But yeah, this is a lot of stuff for Nolan to think about, and it doesn't really end with him having a clear decision to have made. It ends with him saying, I gotta go see my son. I gotta go get my son. I gotta go talk to my son. What is he gonna tell Mark? How is Oliver gonna react to seeing him? How is Debbie gonna react to seeing him? You know, Paul wants to move in with them at this point. How is Paul going to react to seeing Nolan? Oh, and not only that, I forgot to mention in the previous episode, Conquest got released. They showed this ending credits scene at the end of the countdown they had towards season 4. Conquest, when he woke up, he immediately broke out and went back to the Viltrum Empire, and there he had bowed down to Thrag and was like, I deserve death for my failure. And he's like, no, you don't deserve death. I'm not letting you out that easily. And that's how episode 2's post-credit scene ended. So Thrag is about to make his move. I'm guessing he's going to be one of the final villains, because they always do this with the post-credit scenes leading towards the final fight. I remember them doing this in season 2 with Angstrom Levy. Assumingly he's going to be one of the final fights at the end of this season. Obviously, they're not going to finish him off or anything, but it's going to be a big battle. So I'm about to start watching season 4, episode 3 of Invincible. I really don't know what this episode is going to be about. If I had to assume anything, since I saw Mark on the cover of this episode, assumingly this is going to be about the consequences of him catching his body from episode 1. Assumingly, maybe by the end of this episode, Nolan does show up, and it's like, even more tension is going to happen, because this is already a very tense situation for Mark to be in, and it's going to pile upon that, and the Viltrumites approaching, and everything's going to collapse in this season. It feels like the tension is so high. Yeah, I'm about 8 minutes in. This the one. This episode did start off with a discussion between Machine Head and Titan, but that's not the important thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about people's reactions towards Invincible killing the Sequid host. First things first, we gotta start off with Cecil and Donald. Donald seems to be on Mark's side. He's saying, Cecil, you would have done the exact same thing if you were in his situation. It really seems like you're just wanting to pick and and choose why you're mad at Mark for this specific thing. Because this was the right thing, you would have done this. This was the right thing to do. While Cecil is saying, yes, I would have done that, but I'm not a Viltrum. I'm not someone who is capable of destroying humans with the flick of a finger. This is a dangerous thing, and like, we have stressed this guy out so much to the point where he is now contemplating killing people without any hesitation. This is a bad thing, and that seems to be an argument that's going to continue for the rest of this episode. I really enjoy this argument because that morality point is so weird and twisted, because him becoming like Omni-Man is a worry not only for Cecil but for the entirety of the world. So much so that we've seen each other Invincible in each other universe is like Omni-Man. Each other Invincible does kill for the fun of it. Each other Invincible is a lot more evil than this Invincible is. So if this Invincible is starting to kill people, is he just like the other Invincibles? Is he just like Omni-Man? Is he more like Omni-Man than we think? Even the Guardians are having this discussion. Rudy, Robot, not calling him Rex, is saying how wrong it was for Mark to do this. But everybody else is assumingly on the other side. Bulletproof and Monster Girl are 100% on the other side, saying it was 100% necessary. We don't know if the barrier would have stood. It was on like 1%. He made the right choice. He made a choice, which is good because Invincible doesn't make that many choices in life. So it's good he made this one, and a lot of us are thinking it is the right call. And Rudy is a bit apprehensive. So he's in the showers. He feels something in his stomach. He starts to throw up. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, maybe he's feeling a bit woozy because he can't believe somebody killed somebody in front of him. No, he throws up a sequid. A sequid got inside of him. I'm assuming around the time he got knocked out. I'm not 100% sure, but the sequid almost killed him. He didn't have any voice left. He couldn't scream for help, but luckily Monster Girl was there to save him and kill this sequid. And they're sitting there talking at this point, and now Robot's saying, man, all of these villains come back stronger. We never end them permanently. You know, Doc Seismic, the Sequids, everything keeps coming back, and there's no permanent end to them. And it ends with Monster Girl saying, maybe Mark has a point. Are all of these heroes about to start killing people? I know this is leading to the robot stuff. I know this is 100% leading to the robot stuff, but man, it's really starting to sound like, oh god, a lot of these heroes are going to start killing people because they're tired of the bullshit that these villains put them through. They keep coming back, and they keep coming back stronger, and they keep having to get stronger, and they're eventually going to be outclassed, and there's only going to be Mark that's going to be able to put up a fighting chance. So putting them from the end to them does sound like the better option to do, but at the same time, this is an ongoing series, so you can't do that. Somebody's going to end up saying no, something crazy is going to end up happening, and they are going to keep coming back because that's what villains do. But how will they react to that?
Are we done? You can go whenever you...
I'm about 23 minutes in, and I want to talk about Mark's reaction towards what he did a little bit. From what it seems like, it's taking a big toll on Mark, about as much as it took on him when he thought he killed Angstrom Levy. And he seems like he regrets it, but at the same time, he knows it was the right thing to do. And even when Cecil brought him in to talk, he made sure to put up a front like he knew it was the right thing to do. He was telling Cecil he doesn't need to talk, he doesn't need to talk to, especially not him. Well, I feel like Cecil was trying to give him some pretty decent advice, telling him, hey, I'm not that old. I look this way because of stress and what these types of decisions does to a man. It takes an emotional toll on you, and that's what it's done to me, and I don't want you to have to deal with those types of decisions, Mark. But Mark seems pretty gung-ho on making the decisions that he wants to. He says he's an adult now, he gets to make these decisions of his own, even if the flick of the finger he can just break a human's body entirely. He says he's in control, he knows what to do, and his decisions were tested in this moment because Dr. Sinclair walked in and was trying to apologize for what he did to Mark's friend and his boyfriend in college and the rest of the students that was there as well. He really surprisingly seemed genuinely apologetic towards what he did, but Invincible's fist balled up and he just told him to shut up and leave. So it seemed like Invincible wasn't in the brightest mood, and maybe he was thinking about killing him for a second. I don't know. Has Invincible truly snapped? Has he not? It seems pretty up in the air. And also, Eve's still dealing with the fact that her powers are starting to disappear and dissipate a little bit. Why has nobody come to the conclusion that she might be pregnant? I feel like that's the first thing that my mind would come to if my powers started adding up, right? I don't know. I just feel like that's the most appropriate thing to assume.
Hey, hero.
So I watched the rest of this episode, and it was fairly simple, with this being a Machine Head and Titan episode. Oliver had to fight this dragon since Mark didn't feel like it, but the Flaxons have invaded once again. We haven't seen them since like season 1, but they're back, and better than ever. They've prepared for Omni-Man, who isn't here anymore, and they're giving a what for to Invincible now. But now, since Invincible and the Guardians have this new mindset, Robot has this new ideas that he can do now. He wants to destroy the transmitter to stop them from de-aging, which he was able to do, but he didn't want to leave yet because the problem wasn't solved yet, and they're just going to come back better, and they're going to come back stronger, and he doesn't want to deal with that anymore. They really don't want to deal with that anymore. They love Mark's new strategy of solving the problem by ending their lives right then and there. So they want to take them out from the inside, similar to how Omni-Man did from before, but they want to finish their job. The Flaxons see Invincible heading their way, and they decide to destroy the portal before Invincible could go in there and do what Omni-Man did before. So now Monster Girl and Robot are trapped in that dimension. That makes them age rapidly. So by the time we see them again, they're gonna look wholly different. And Oliver couldn't deal with Liu the dragon on his own, so he ended up calling Mark for help, and there they were able to run the dragon off, and they took off, and Invincible almost killed Titan because Oliver got seriously damaged. So he's like, yo, don't fuck with my family. He almost killed Titan. Oliver had to say, yo, chill out. I wanted to do this. Stop. It doesn't seem like this new strategy is going as a plan. It's not as simple as stopping the problem from then on, because each time something terrible has happened. Now Rudy and Monster Girl are gone, and Invincible almost killed Titan. I don't know if he deserves it or not, but he does keep taking Mark's niceness to his advantage. It seems like things just aren't going their way, and I could say it's all Invincible's fault because it damn sure might be. This episode didn't end with the Omni-Man and Alan post-credit scene. It didn't end with the Conquest post-credit scene. It didn't end with the Thrag post-credit scene. It ended with Eve taking a pregnancy test and it coming back positive. Yes, what we have been theorizing for these past couple episodes has come true. Eve is pregnant. Very much so, obviously. I don't know why this wasn't the first thing that they thought was wrong with her powers. It's the most obvious thing to have happened. I don't know why she's shocked by this. This would be the only reason her powers would be messing up. But I guess at the end of the day, that's more stress for them to deal with. They now have to deal with this baby being born and also deal with this new morality that Mark might want to go through but is still apprehensive towards. And now the Guardians are also wanting to go through with this new morality system. It's a lot. And you know, Monster Girl and Rudy are going to age rapidly in there. They're going to come back older, and probably that's when the robot stuff are going to start happening. You know, he's going to come up with a new mindset. You know, he's going to start festering, and maybe he has taken out the Flaxons by the time he comes back. I don't know, but I really cannot wait to see it. I'm about to start watching Invincible Season 4, Episode 4, where I think I left off in Episode 3 as Monster Girl and Not got left off in a Flaxon place, and they're probably going to age rapidly while in there. So this episode is going to have to focus on the aftermath of that and maybe some more of Invincible's downward spiral, because he is a little bit of a loose cannon at this point. You know, he's got his first body, he almost beat Titan to death. You know, what's he gonna do next? Where is this downward spiral going to take him? We have to find out.
The fact that it's eating you alive means you're not him.
I'm about 5 minutes into the episode so far, and I do want to take a brief minute to talk about Mark and Art's discussion that they had. It was about what Mark did. The body he caught is still eating him alive, is still tearing him up on the inside, and maybe the consequences of Rudy and Monster Girl going away, he hasn't correlated that just yet, but that's kind of a part of it too. But what Mark is saying in this discussion is that he feel like he isn't just becoming his father at this point. He feel like he is his father. He feels like he's not worthy of being a hero anymore. He feels like he just needs to give up being this hero. He needs to change and work on himself and whatever's going on in his head at this point. He can't go around killing people, because if he does, he's no better than Nolan. He doesn't like that Oliver is looking at him weird when he was beating the hell out of Titan. Just a couple of months prior, this kid was blasting through the Mauler brothers. So seeing him react this way towards something that Mark is doing is very reflective of Mark's behavior in his head. So he doesn't feel the best. So he's giving him back his blue suit, and in response, Art tried to give him his old suit and saying, "You're still the kid that I once knew, and this might help you remember that you are still that kid that's still trying to be the hero, but this world is just not as bright as you think it is. This world is dangerous and it's changing you because of it. You're not becoming your father. You are a reflection of the world that has been thrust upon you." It's a very gray area they're trying to make Mark be in currently. And it's just gonna get more and more stressful because there is so much that still hasn't happened yet. The Viltrumite war hasn't started yet. The robot stuff hasn't started yet. Eve hasn't told him she's pregnant yet. There's so much stuff that still has to happen. So much stress that is going to be added upon to what's going on in Mark's head already. And honestly, I could see that making him snap. Oh, and I guess this episode is going to kind of start this Damien Darkblood stuff. It was a big focus in the previously on earlier in this episode, and before I paused it, we have gotten into hell, I think, or at least we're in a volcano, and we see a lot of demons in these tech suits, and we see their assuming leader. I think her name was Volcantress or something like that. Her name is Volcanica, by the way. Kinda hot. Okay, I'm now about 15 minutes in. The roles are very different than I thought they were going into this. I thought them and Volcanica were working together, and Volcanica was going to be another one of those recurring villains like a Doc Seismic. She was just being introduced in this season and was going to start causing havoc. But apparently, she is of opposition to these demons. So it was her and her merriment of volcanic people versus Damien Darkblood, Domina, and the rest of the demonic people. And they were going back and forth. It looked like it might have been even at one point, but every single hit they were doing, it was doing nothing to Hot Lady Volcanica. She was not being phased one bit. And eventually, she just wiped everybody out, and Damien Darkblood was the only one left. And she said he was too worthless to defeat. She made him drag his sorry ass and the rest of his team back to Satan empty-handed yet again. She said, "Tell that motherfucker I'm the great beast now. There's nothing he can do. I've beat him twice already. I don't need to do it a third time. I'm the great beast now." Honestly, I'm really trying to sit here and understand the story that they're trying to tell with Damien Darkblood. And maybe it's just because I haven't seen season 1 in a long time. I feel like his character is kind of different from how it was in season 1. There's a detective in the DC comics, I think, that is very similar to this. And I kind of thought that was the role that Damien Darkblood was playing in the world of Invincible. He was this mysterious demon who is a great detective, and maybe there could have been a side story of him trying to do stuff. But looking at him now, learning more stuff about him, his character has changed a lot, and he's now seen as a weak, subservient person to Satan, a subservient person to a lot of enemies in this world. He doesn't compare to what Omni-Man and Invincible is, or a lot of the heroes and villains even. And it's strange yet intriguing juxtaposing how he's acting in this versus how confident he was in standing toe-and-toe against Nolan in season 1. I just feel like that's a crazy juxtaposition that maybe is going to be explored within here. I don't know. Maybe they just think they're better than all mortals. But going back to Satan, Satan seems kind of through with it. He's like, "Listen, we've been trying all this stuff. I'm just gonna revive everybody and you're gonna go back to Volcanica and try again." And Damien Darkblood's like, "No, I want to try this conjuring thing again." And they're like, "Listen, both of these things really don't work, but we gotta try with one of these." So this just seems like these are sorry villains, in my opinion. Okay, I'm now 26 minutes into this episode, and oh my god, is this a lore dump. Almost don't have anything to say because of how lore heavy it is, and there's gonna be a section of people that are going to be turned off by this in this episode because it's dealing with Damien Darkblood and hell and demons, and they said that, hey, demons aren't actually that bad, Satan's not a bad guy. That's not gonna go over that well for a lot of people. There is a lot of lore that was being told about this world or Earth in general and how it came to be, and how humans are the 6th generation of living creatures within here, and age 1 were like gigantic unfathomable monsters, and age 2 were the kaijus and the beasts and stuff, and for some reason they don't talk about age 3, and age 5 is where the demons and stuff came to be, and age 4 is where Volcanica's people have came to be and where the chaos ensues. So the reason they've drug Invincible here is because they want Invincible to help them defeat Volcanica, because they said she is planning to destroy the world and all of humanity, and he's the only one who can help them stop him. They wanted to contact Omni-Man and send him there, which it does tie into season 1 a little bit better because he still had the outfit and the vial from then, and that's what he used to conjure up Mark and bring him there. So I do like that tie in a little bit better, and it makes his role in season 1 seem a bit different. He was very serious and stern and confident in front of Nolan and Cecil and everything because he was on a mission, because he was trying to find somebody suitable to help Satan or bring Satan back to life, or whatever it really is he's trying to do, because I don't know if I trust him or not. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Titan episode happened before this. If we remember how Titan got involved with Invincible, it's because Titan gave him this sob story about his life and his daughter and everything, and he kind of convinced Invincible to help him out and make him the new leader of the gang he was affiliated with instead of Machine Head. Here, in Hell, it feels kind of similar. They said Volcanica took Satan's throne and they brought Invincible there to help them throw Volcanica out in some sort of a coup so Satan can regain his throne and it can help be a step towards his revival, I think. And I think this is being put upon us now, so just suppose how Mark feels like he's not a hero at this point. He's going to be doing a lot of different choices from how he did during his first Titan interaction. And maybe by the end of this episode, he will kind of see the error in his ways and be more of the hero that he once was, or once felt like he was. And to add 2 more steps to that theme, it does not help that they were able to bring him there with the blood they got from Omni-Man. They really wanted Omni-Man's help. They really wanted Omni-Man to help solve whatever issues were going on in this realm. But they didn't bring Omni-Man there, they brought Mark there. So that's added on to the thematic theme of this season of he is Omni-Man now. That's very blatant in our face at this point. And the second thing that's added upon this is the mummy. I cannot remember the mummy's name because I never see him as that important. I always see him as a gag. He was always used as a gag. In fact, I almost completely forget about him every single time. But that was the drug that Mark had to take that he was drugged from. The mummy was kind of sad because he thought, hey, I finally got a nice suitor that I could take over the body of, but instead he had to take over the body of a woman even if he really didn't want to. And the reason this is added upon to that theme is because that's another person possessed that could potentially cause dangerous havoc across the world. And maybe it's going to be another situation where Mark feels like he's going to have to kill this person or try to find a different outcome because he really doesn't want to be like his father. He's gonna have to try to come up with something that isn't just kill it so it solves the problem. He wants to find a different solution. And I think that's the story they're gonna tell with that mummy part. I really like the character journey that Invincible is going through. I hope he makes it out as a better person. I'm about 38 minutes into this episode now, and I'm kind of surprised how focused this episode is. Normally, throughout Invincible episodes, we turn to see what other characters are going through and the journeys that other people are having at the same time that this is happening with Invincible. But this is a very focused episode of Damien Darkblood's hell journey. I feel bad for not caring that much, and this is just mostly probably because this is all new lore that is being thrust upon me, so it's like I can't care about this as much as like the Viltrum stuff, let's say, because I've been hearing about that stuff since season 1 came out, so I care about that a lot more as opposed to all of these demons and Volcanica and all of this other stuff where I, quite frankly, is almost all passing me by. It's hard to keep up with everything you're trying to tell me in this episode. But I will say one thing this episode is doing really well is making me a fan of Damien Darkblood. I do find his bluntness endearing, and I do like his relationship that he has with Invincible, at least within this episode. He seems very straightforward, very blunt, I've seen a little bit of everything at this point, so like there's nothing you could say that will faze me. When they were falling into the pit to get to the crown and they were talking a bunch of nonsense, one thing he said was that he feels very different from his dad. There's a little bit of detective in him. Invincible likes asking questions, wondering what's going on. He is different from Omni-Man, but Invincible doesn't want to hear that. He's refusing to see that he is very different from Nolan. He just feels like he's a bad person at this point. And even later, after they've given a crown back to Satan and he has this new form which doesn't look good also to me, he's talking to Invincible some more, and that's where we start to see more of where Invincible's head at. Invincible thinks that there was probably some other solution that he possibly could have done. But Damien Darkblood is saying, hey, we do this hell thing, we torture people, and humans live on Earth free. We don't do this hell thing and torture people, the Earth is doomed. And Invincible is saying, no, there is always another solution. And Damien is saying, yeah, but maybe the Earth didn't have that much time left for us to figure that solution out. And all of this is, you know, going into Invincible's head, and he's having to think about all of these things. And I do think for the betterment of himself, or maybe for the worse of himself, he's going to convince himself that he did it for the better good. And maybe at this point his anger is getting the best of him a little bit, but that specific situation with the Sequids was his best option. There was nothing else he could have done. The Titan thing, yeah, you're letting your anger get the best of you right there in some other situations, but this specifically with the Sequids, it was your only solution. There was nothing else you could have done, man. Alright, I'm about 46 minutes into this episode now when obviously Invincible got a little bit more involved than he assumed. Originally, he thought the plan was just for him to get all the merrymen of volcanic ne'er-do-wells out of the way so all of the demonic people could focus on Volcanica. But that is just not what happened. Volcanica basically mollywalked everybody. She said, hey, actually, I was holding back this entire time. I just wanted to get my rounds back in with Satan, and she did that, and she was mollywalking everybody. So Invincible did have to get involved, and just like he did with Russ, who was taken over by the Sequids, he punched Volcanica in the face. But because Volcanica's Volcanica, she just regenerated, and he hit her again, she regenerated, and he hit her again, and she regenerated. And this kind of ended with her being like, I'll return. So she is going to be a reoccurring villain. I knew it. You don't be that hot and not be a reoccurring villain. But I really don't know what this fight did to Invincible's psyche. Did this fight really make his mind switch and be like, okay, she was talking mad stuff. She was saying that, alright, I've already beat Satan. That's out of the way. I'm gonna go make terror upon the human realm and stuff. And I'm gonna go do a lot of dangerous things and terrorize the world. Was that enough for him to be like, oh, what I did was right? Why was that enough for him to confirm what he did was right exactly? Because this is what Damien Darkblood has been telling him this entire time, but it took a villain saying it to his face for him to realize, oh wait, this can actually happen, and if I don't act now, things might be too late. He said verbatim, even if the Guardians do act and can take Volcanica out, there will still be some lives lost. So I had to act now. Is this supposed to symbolize that he has turned a new leaf and he's now okay with the acts that he's done? Or is this supposed to be a symbolism for him getting darker and getting more aggressive and him going towards the even more edgier, darker side? Like all of the other Invincibles we met during the Invincible War.
I'm sorry, Mark. The time for war is upon us.
Okay, I've now watched the rest of the Invincible episode, and I can confidently say I think it was the fact that Mark got his resolve back, because it ended with him finding Art's room and quickly grabbing his blue and yellow suit. So now he's back in OG Invincible colors, ready to take on the day. There was some music, he did the little flying montage thing again, but there's still some deep issues within him. He does have a new resolve, he does feel like a hero again, but there's still a lot of stuff, a lot of stress, anxiety, just things that have happened that are still going through his head, and it's getting added upon that because Debbie broke the news that her and Paul are probably going to be buying a house together, and she's probably going to sell this family house. How could it get worse for there? I don't know. Maybe Eve's gonna talk to him. Oh no, never mind. Before Eve got the opportunity to, Alan and Nolan have finally made their way there. So now Omni-Man is there, and he's gonna have to see Debbie again, and their interaction is going to be weird, and maybe Paul's interaction with him is going to be weird. Is he going to find out about Paul? I don't know, but this is like, there's so much things that are happening to Invincible right now, and it's not going to get any better. Like, he might feel like a hero again, but this arc is going to be just a downward, beaten down Invincible, getting mollywopped not only physically but emotionally, mentally, stressfully as well. Oh, and I guess Satan does want to come to the living world. Damon Darkblood now has a new mission.